So welcome to our first video for Eurovision 2025. Sorry about the delay in posting anything, but had some health issues and just a lot going on in life. Anyway, let's get straight into it. This is going to be a semi-final one recap. Not too lengthy, just going to give my thoughts on what qualified and what didn't, and what kind of chances those songs are going to have on Saturday. So let's start with the non-qualifiers, and we'll start with Azerbaijan. I actually thought it was quite a good song. It had reminded me of like the 2010s type FIFA song kind of vibe, like stuff like 1975. A nice little indie kind of rock song, but just didn't really work at Eurovision really. Wasn't staged well at all for the kind of song it is. It was really dark and there was like a lot of red in the backgrounds, and it was staged as if it was a really hard, heavy rock song, and it just wasn't. It was like a really nice indie song. It just didn't, the staging didn't match the song. It's like they had a staging for a completely different song and just used it anyway. So yeah, it just didn't work. Probably finished in the bottom two, I think. Really struggled. Didn't sound that good on stage either, but as I said, I don't think it worked. Croatia on to next. Again, this wasn't really expected to qualify, just purely because the song wasn't very good. We knew before we saw it on the stage, the problem was always going to be the song. They did as much as they could really with the staging. It wasn't a terrible staging by any stretch of the imagination, but just that chorus with the vocals and it's just an unpleasant sound to a lot of people. There is a niche audience for that kind of music, but there's just not going to be enough of them to vote for it on a Tuesday night for the Eurovision. So no real surprise that Croatia missed out. They also didn't really have any friendly votes in this semi-final. They might have done better in the other semi-final. On to Slovenia, and actually a beautifully sung ballad. And I actually thought this might qualify. It was borderline, and when I watched it, I thought, wow, this has got a real chance. And the real touching moment at the end, obviously the English BBC commentary really explained what the song was about and that sort of thing, and it really added to the song. Whether other countries' commentators would have done the same, I don't know. But I think ultimately it failed to qualify because it was third in the running order. If this was like second to last or towards the end of the running order, I think it probably qualifies, but it gets forgotten after all the other songs that's gone after it. And I think that was the problem. Now I know we had Iceland qualify from first, so you don't need to be late in the running order, but I just think this sort of song, it doesn't stick in your mind that much because it's a banging tune. It's more of like an emotional connection, and it would have worked better at the end. Anyway, sad that Slovenia didn't qualify, but I've got to applaud them. It was a really good song and they staged it really well. Now on to the surprise non-qualifiers, and we'll start with Cyprus. And again, I think the staging really killed this one. It was just so dark, I couldn't really see what was going on. You had this climbing frame apparatus thing that they kept climbing on and moving, but there didn't really seem to be any point to have that on the stage, and for them to continue doing it, it just detracted from the song rather than gave it any kind of elevation. Yeah, it's a curious choice of prop really, and I just really don't think it worked. The song wasn't that strong. It would have been if it was performed in a different way, and the chorus was the drop / chorus was more pronounced, then I think the song probably would have qualified and done a bit better. But it just got a bit lost. I just didn't think it was very good on the stage. I thought it would still qualify being in the pimp slot, but it was a shock non-qualifier all the same. Maybe Cyprus have been accused of doing the old SIM card kind of trick, and maybe they didn't this year, or the EBU got a sniff of it and told them not to. But Cyprus not going to be in the final. Now the big surprise non-qualifier was Belgium. Now they were the fifth favourites to win the whole contest before the semi-final, so for them to not qualify was a surprise to most people. Now I know it's easy for me to say now, but I did think it might not qualify purely because there's not much of a song there really. It's just one kind of baseline drop and a high note, and a bit in between. There's just not much there. It's nothing really to sing along to either. So if you're trying to run it back in your head and sing along to it, there's nothing to do there. Again, this kind of ravey, high energy dance tune. We saw it with Austria last year, where it only just squeezed into the final in a weak semi-final. That there's just not really an audience for this kind of song. It's certainly in the semi-final. Well, Austria flops in the final as well. So I just don't think there's an audience for this kind of song. It's not really very modern, and the people that probably really enjoy this kind of music are not watching the Eurovision on a Tuesday night or on a Saturday night. They're probably out partying. So I just don't think this kind of genre of music works. Whether we'll see another one next year, I don't know. But Belgium will be really disappointed. It was his birthday as well, which makes it even sadder that they didn't qualify. But also, like, I know his name's Red Sebastian and there's a lot of red, but everything was red. Everything was washed out red. It didn't look good, in my opinion. Too much red. It doesn't translate that well on the screen. So they're the non-qualifiers. Now let's run down some of the countries that did qualify. Right, we'll start with the big ones, really. Yeah, Sweden, as expected, qualified with ease, obviously. Probably won the semi-final. There's quite a few people that think Estonia might have won. It's probably between those two. Obviously, an easy qualifier. It was favourite to win the whole contest. Estonia as well, they qualified again. A big televote favourite. Could have won the semi-final, judging by some of the numbers we saw immediately afterwards. But I did like Estonia's staging. It looked a lot better than the national final. They put a lot of effort into it, spent a bit of money, and it did look really good. It's just going to be let down in the final by the fact that he misses some of the notes. It's not really much of a song there. The juries just aren't going to like it. It's going to score It's probably going to score a bigger televote on Saturday night, just because it's that kind of song that a Saturday night audience is going to enjoy. But the juries just are going to not give it many points whatsoever, because there's nothing really there for a jury to reward it for, really. So as good as Estonia's story is, and it will probably finish in the top 10, somewhere near 6 maybe, just on the strength of its televote mark. For me, it's not a contender to win, purely because it doesn't have anything that the juries are going to give it points for. Then we have Netherlands. Again, they were definitely going to qualify. They're one of the favourites to win it. I think they're now 4th or 5th favourites to win the contest. And Claude delivered a really good package here. Like, it was the beginning when he was like singing really slowly. It worked really well with the lights behind him. I thought that was a really good opening to the song. And then as it built, the staging just worked really nicely. It just flowed quite well. The song's really friendly for juries and televotes. It's got an outside chance of winning the whole contest. It's not going to win the jury vote, and it's not going to win the televote probably, but it could finish 2nd in the jury, 4th or 5th in the televote, and that could be enough to win this year. There's nothing really that stands out in both jury and televote this year. So Netherlands, again, like I say, expected to qualify, did really well, really enjoyed the performance. On to Albania. As per always with Albania, the stage is very red. There's a lot of red lights because that is their country's colour, really. And I don't think the staging was as powerful. Obviously, the national final with the orchestra was really good, and you can't recreate that here because there's no orchestra. And if you put one on the big screen, I don't think it would really have any kind of impact. So what they went for was quite good. I've heard some people that really like the staging, but to me it didn't really elevate the song. And I still have this problem with the male singer of the duet just not really doing anything the whole time, and then delivers his lines, and then he just looks a bit like a lost piece on the stage. I think maybe it would have been better for him to enter the stage to deliver his part, but you know, it's still good. I think it's going to do very well. It's probably a borderline top 10 entry in the final. I know the odds have contracted a bit for it for top 10, but I still think it doesn't have a massive jury appeal, you know, not kind of top 5 jury, and it doesn't really have for me, a televote of top 5. So it's going to sit somewhere below, and I don't know how far high it will go and how far low. It will get a decent chunk of the Balkans vote though, so I probably just put it like 9th or 8th maybe. That's probably where I predict it will finish. Then we've got Poland, and it was again, I expected it to qualify just with its diaspora around Europe. They normally, Poland and Lithuania normally do really well with the televotes just because of their spread of their diaspora around Europe. And in this case, from Poland, we had like a returning star basically in Poland. She's really big. So I think she could have really got a lot of the Polish people to come out and vote for her. We've seen the YouTube number views of last night's semi-final. They are huge, like dwarf every other act, which is really interesting because you wouldn't expect that from Poland for a normal year unless it's a really big star. And with them being a big star, if they can pull in those votes, if we remember in 2016, Michael Stipp did the similar sort of thing. Nobody thought he had a chance. And I mean, I think he scored 6 or 7 televote points. So when they were announcing the countries, like he had like 6 points or something, and then had the 3rd most televote, and it just rocketed up the board. We could see something similar here. Not probably quite to that extreme, but if you think you only need 150 points to get in the top 10, I think Poland have got a real shot of making the top 10 if that star appeal of the artist is going to get the Polish voters out there. And the song might appeal to other people as well. It's not terrible. I thought it was the staging is really lively. She puts everything into it. It's a really good staging. Maybe a bit busy at times, but it does look good. So I think a top 10 bet for Poland is pretty good value. This morning it was around 5-1. So anything around that seems like a really big price for a country that you wouldn't expect them to be outside the top 15. So in that 10 to 15 bracket, I'll definitely be playing around with some bets there. Then we have Ukraine. Now, it's difficult to know how well they did, obviously, because the song itself, I think a lot of people have commented, and I tend to agree that if this song was sent by most countries, it would probably fail to qualify. It's not a very good song. The performance isn't great. The staging is nothing special. So it's just relying on the Ukraine vote to really do well. Now, how much of the Ukraine vote it would get, I'm not sure, because it's not the sort of song that I think they would attach themselves to, like some of the ones in the past that they have. So I wouldn't, it's difficult to recommend any kind of like prediction on what Ukraine will do, purely because there's such a variance in how much televote they can get. We can remember when they hosted, when the UK hosted for them, they didn't score very well at all because it wasn't a song that the Ukrainian people really wanted to get behind, and like the sympathy voters weren't turning out for them. Now, I could see this one finishing outside the top 10 personally, but it's not something I'd want to recommend or predict because there's a lot of variance involved in how many people can turn out, but I could probably see this finishing 13th, 14th. Now let's get on to like the more less fancy qualifiers, should we say, judging by like comments and the market beforehand. San Marino was basically Italy voted for this, didn't they? Like, it really helped that Italy were voting in this semi-final because they would have given it 12 points, and it also helps that Italy were performing in this semi-final, so a lot of Italians around Europe would have tuned in maybe to watch that, and then they're also going to vote for this. Also, this song is probably really well. It's had a lot of streams by Italians, so it's probably really well known by the Italian music fans, and they want to vote for it. I think coming into the final, it might be a bit strange if the Italian vote gets split between Italy and San Marino. That's something that could happen, really. I mean, Tutta Italia there's not much of a song there, and if it didn't have the Italian kind of influence in the song, there was probably no chance at all it qualifies. It is an upbeat, nice song to listen to, but it's not the quality that you normally see in the Eurovision final. So it is living off the back of being Italian, and whether the Italian voters all just switch to vote for Italy in the final, or if they split them, I don't know. I don't think San Marino are going to do that one in the final, but it would get enough televote not to be in the bottom couple, I would have imagined. So probably not in the top 15, but just outside, I'd say, in the final for San Marino. And although it wasn't a massive surprise it qualified, actually, when you put the pieces together of Italy being in this semi-final, and I'll get on to why I think there was such a big kind of like surprise towards the bottom of the qualifiers in a minute. And then we have Iceland. Coming into it, I probably didn't think Iceland were going to qualify. The song is probably not strong enough in my opinion. It's a bit junior Eurovision really, but when you saw the staging and them in the boat, it was a lot of fun, and the song had a kind of catchy tune to it. And after watching it, I was coming around to the fact that this has actually got a borderline 50-50 chance of qualifying here, and I was still quite surprised it qualified. But looking back, the staging wise, it was clever, and sometimes opening the show you do get the slight advantage of being the first song shown, so you do get a bit of memorability. Whereas if you're performing second or third, that's definitely less of an advantage than performing first. Going into the final, I don't think Iceland are going to do much. I can't really see the jury really giving it anything other than a few friendly votes and a mild televote. So probably outside the top 15 for me. So Norway, another qualifier. Odds-wise, they were expected to qualify, but I saw a number of analysts and betting experts predicting this could not qualify. For me, I thought it was a definite qualifier. I mean, I'm not saying anything outrageous here. I mean, the odds were 1.3 at most, I think, to qualify. So, it's not a huge. It's not really a surprise qualifier in that effect, but I thought he sang it pretty well. It's a kind of a Eurovision by numbers pop song, but sometimes a lot of the audience, that's what they want. It's been quite a big radio hit. I think it'll do okay. I don't think it's destined to finish at the very bottom in the final. I originally thought it had a shot at top 10 when I first heard it back when the Melody Grand Prix had finished, but it's probably not strong enough to get that high up. It could sneak a top 15, but it's going to be tough because in the final there won't be a lot of televote points to go around for a lot of the also ran countries, because there's so many strong televote songs that are going to just basically divide all the points up between them. So you're going to see probably 2, 3, 4, 5 countries with 0 televote points again. And I think that's just the way it's going to happen whilst we have this televote only semi-final, because countries are more inclined to send televote heavy songs, and those songs in turn in the final take up collect all the televotes between them. So lastly, we've got Portugal, and I can't really give a good valid reason why this qualified. I've rewatched it a couple of times, and I just simply don't really understand how it qualified. It's a nice enough song. Amidst the chaos of a Eurovision semi-final, it does kind of stand out as a calming piece of music. But then why wouldn't you vote for Slovenia, which was just a much better song in my opinion? I don't really see much of a hook in this song. The performers, the staging, it's just nice. There's nothing really for me to gravitate towards for this song. So it's a mystery why it qualified. The only explanation I'm going to offer is basically if you take a look at the top 6 or 7 countries that I mentioned first, Sweden, Estonia, they probably took care of most of the 12s and 10s other than like a geographical neighbour. So like none of the countries now are playing for 12s and 10s. So then the 8s and the 6s and the 5s, you've got Netherlands, Albania, Poland and Ukraine are going to take up most of those. So then all of a sudden, like, the other 8 countries, the 5 that didn't qualify in the bottom 3, or the bottom 3 or 4, let's say, they're now all fighting over the 4s and the 3s and the 2s and the 1s. And the odd, like, geographical neighbour vote, like San Marino got, is going to end up being huge. So, and also, so like, Portugal could have like qualified as like 21 points, and Belgium could have had 20. It could be that small because there are just not many points available, I don't think, for the bottom countries. I think the top countries just will have eaten up all the big points. And you're going to see something similar in the final. Not so much the semi-final too, because that's a bit of a nightmare. There's only about 4 or 5 that you kind of know are going through. Well, thanks for watching the video, and, you know, like, subscribe and all that sort of things if you want to see more videos from me. And I'm going to upload a second video very shortly, which will be my predictions and preview of semi-final 2, really.